Chaps, I've got Al. We've known each other for a good couple of a few months now, isn't it? Because obviously the cult bar and all of this kind of the local events.
Yeah, since the first one at the Cult Bars when I came along too. So
No, no, was it? And
6 months, 7 months, something like that.
I think it was something like that. We're pausing for the moment just to get Christmas and New Year's out of the way, and then we'll revisit it. But mate, you've got one hell of an interesting story. But can I just put in a disclaimer because we kind of know each other and we've had quite many conversations. Sometimes the way we talk might be we've already got a relationship
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we've got a weird way of talking and all this kind of stuff. So I think we've got that bond now. So some people might be like, "Oh, I can't believe he said that," and that's just the way we talk.
yeah, yeah. Not well, like just gents talking, not worried about political correctness, and we're fine with it. We know where we are, so everything's cushy.
Exactly that, mate. So t tell us about yourself. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just putting my phone on do not disturb because yeah. Tell us about yourself, mate.
Well, I guess the crux of it is I came out gay when I was 18, and my parents didn't deal with it particularly well. So I kind of was left where I lived with my mum and went to live with my dad, and he, didn't make me feel comfortable particularly there either. So from the age of kind of 19 onwards, I just tried to do everything completely by myself without any impact or influence to my brothers and my family. And I think really that pushed me on a path of never wanting to accept any help or never being particularly great at any relationships because you could just get hurt and told you weren't wanted again. Um,
Yeah.
um, so never asked for help. Always struggled a bit mentally. Never felt I was good enough at anything I did. Um, and to get over thinking about myself or thinking that, I just took on more and more stuff. So I the last 20 years I've worked 7 days a week, as many hours as you can keep awake, doing running my own business, working full time and volunteering for stuff. And then last February it just kind of came to a head, and I just packed a rucksack, threw it in the back of a van, and drove to Scotland with the intent to not survive that experience.
Yeah.
Um, and it was something that I planned ever since I was in my 20s, that I would be in control of when my life would end. So
Yeah.
I don't want to trigger anyone, but for me, I think it just was that I will make that decision. It is something that it's a thing that nobody can take away from me. That thought process and that choice.
So is it a control thing?
Yeah, that's what I've been told. That from the therapy that I'm having now, that it just is a control thing. That I don't I find it difficult to let anyone help me, because I want to be in control of everything.
Yeah. So so if you like to be in control of yourself, I mean that in a nice way.
Yeah.
How do you stop yourself from being one of those? Oh, I've tried therapy for a week and it's crap.
Um, because I never tried it. I never until I got to a point where my brothers, that I in the end I put a rope around my neck and jumped off a very high bridge, and because I chose the wrong rope, it snapped. I ended up in a river. I can't swim. Managed to get out of that all completely by myself. Wandered around with half a dozen fractured bones for a week until I walked into my stepmom in a car park in a car park in a place I'd never been before. So it's all this sort of fate stuff, and it was at that point thinking, well, everybody now knows the state that I'm in. I can't hide anything anymore. So it was only at that point, um, you know, end of February last year, that I made a promise to my brothers. Okay, I will accept therapy. I will now be nothing but honest. But before that point, I wouldn't let on to anybody how I
Yeah.
felt or that I was struggling.
Do you feel because I said this in a video the other day, and I've said it myself. Did you feel you had to admit something?
Well, it's admit failure. I think
What's
it's
the, yeah, but what's the I've got a real squeaky chair and I don't know why it's doing that. Why do you? I've had like as you know, I've had loads of conversations and I've started picking with blokes, and like most of them will use the term admits, but a woman doesn't say that, and it just blows my mind. It's like what are we admitting?
we're
Sorry, I've chucked you in there. Sorry, man.
well. I think it's admitting that we're not what we believe we should be, and who knows where that comes from. That's just society and upbringing, and well, maybe it's fueled by testosterone. I don't know. Maybe it just is the way our brains are built more, that we want to be seen, not to be the one to admit that we can't do something, we can't cope. You know,
Yeah,
we should always be moving forward, I suppose.
yeah. So, so if I just go backwards a little bit, so that bit, so you've already said it now, and I know we've got a relationship as well. Is there anything in your life before you jumped off that bridge with the noose? Is there anything what is there one point in your life where you like, if that changed, that wouldn't have happened?
No, well, I don't think so. But the therapy and the guy that I kind of see was weekly, now kind of monthly.
Yeah,
It equates it all back to you know being told to leave home.
that's interesting. And that's obviously because of you being gay.
Yeah,
So it just sounds so
that
screwed
that uh,
for
that
that
it
to happen. No, go on, sorry.
that I would he thinks, and I'd like to believe him, and at the same time I don't struggle, but I kind of think, have I fed you this information so you're coming up with this answer? Is it the actual answer? And then I start overthinking it.
Yeah.
But just I'm going to prove I am worthwhile. I suppose that the the 80s was a pretty crap time to be gay.
Well, it was. If that happened now, there'll be all human rights and riots.
Yeah. So and I don't blame my parents. It's just their views are part of their upbringing, and you can't equate how people think to now to how they've thought in the past. So I don't particularly blame anyone, but the therapy guy says that I just shut down basically and thought I'm going to prove to the world I am worthwhile, I am worthy, I can do absolutely anything without any help, which
Yeah.
in the end was my downfall.
And quite sadly, that's the case with the many conversations I have via MANUP. Bloody, I think I said to you before, like, but some of the stories I've ended up admitting. I remember in a trustee meeting, I'm like, this is doing my head in, or it's doing me in. You hear story after story after story
Yeah,
after story. But trouble is, annoyingly, I've had people say that, Dan, you're one of the strongest people I know. But trouble is, you live up to that brand, don't you?
yeah,
Where you just like, yeah, I'm strong, like nothing affects me and all this kind of stuff. And I see it time and time and time again. And then there's that one day when you just I'm done. Thankfully I've not been as I was going to say dramatic, but thankfully I've not gone as far as you did. um, I don't even know where I was going with that, but it's just everybody. I think what we've got to push is everybody has a cracking point.
yeah. And I think before that cracking point, the cracks are showing. Well, I think
Yeah,
you do, and that is the point you need to talk, isn't it? That
yeah,
it's not before the final big crack. It is as the mask, your shell or whatever begins to weaken. You need to know who you can talk to, and I didn't. But it seems so ridiculous because having reached mentally, a really crap point, which wasn't the moment I jumped off the bridge, was actually about a week before. Um, it now seems so easy just to tell the truth and talk to people because, and I wonder why I didn't do it before. But I think because for me, everybody that I talk to, my family all know I did something so dramatic that they all know something was wrong.
Yeah,
I can never hide that. So there is no point trying to paper over the cracks and just be brutally honest now.
yeah. So how I was going to say, it sounds like you've 'cause in my head, if I was telling that story as in that was me, do you are you still on like a suicide watch? And what I mean by that is everybody's like, oh, you're right, you're right, you're right, like, and not leaving you alone now.
I
Because
think that
it wasn't that long ago, was it? It was only a year ago.
yeah, it's not quite a year. It's not
Yeah,
quite a year. So I think when I was when my brother took me in, I'm living with my brother at the moment. Well, I've got lots of brothers, but I'm living with one of them,
yeah,
um, and he's fairly chilled about it. Some of the others aren't, but luckily I'm with one that can laugh and joke with me, and that's what I like. I'm a laughy, jokey kind
yeah,
of
no, absolutely.
person, and I think for them to hear that, I planned. It was my birthday last week, and when I was 40, I got all my brothers together, rented a cottage, and my plan was that that would be the last time they saw me, and
Yeah,
I'd done something nice, and they'd have a memory of us all being together. And I just didn't get round to it, and then I planned it again when I was 50. So it's been me being in control of ending it has been something that I've planned for years and years and years.
yeah,
So when I kind of was offered therapy, I, and they asked what I wanted, I said, well, I know it's going to come back. It would be ridiculous to think I'm never going to think like that again. So actually, what I need is to know how to cope with it when I think that's the solution.
and
And I think, in a way, I feel that by being so open and talking about it and joking about it, it kind of takes the power away from it. So I don't think they do worry I'm on a suicide watch, because for me, everybody knows I'm struggling when I go quiet, when I don't talk to people, and I engineered through COVID, and then afterwards seeing absolutely none of my friends for about a
yeah,
year, because I didn't want anybody to be the last person that saw me. So I've kind of engineered being so insular to protect everybody, and the fact that now I'm not that, I think, proves to them that I'm not at that point at the moment again.
yeah.
Sorry, that
So
was a bit
how?
long-winded.
Yeah, no, no, it's a good answer. It's one of those where you can end up watching that answer about two or three times and get something different every time, which is why I like an honest conversation. So how do you? I'm sure you gathered, Manor, I heavily promote just because of me and my own BPD and mental demons. Sometimes I've just gone. Do you know what? Sorry, I've got to deal with this for the rest of my life. So I can either bitch and moan about it and have a pity party,
Yeah,
or I can learn to live with it.
that's where I am.
But how do you do that if you've got that little voice of like kill yourself? Unless I'm mistaken. Sorry.
I think I've decided that up until last year, I just existed, and
That's interesting.
I managed everything about myself, and managed, or I believe I managed, how people would perceive me and what I did. And I kind of think that, given this ridiculous string of events, that at so many points of what I did for 3 and a bit weeks last year, there were so many points that I should have died, not just the bridge point, other bits as well. That it's so ridiculous that I survived, that has to tell me something. And my plan is, now I have accidentally survived, then I need to have a life, and I need to, for the first time, actually live and do stuff, and not be afraid of what people think of me and stuff. So for me, it's like the biggest reset I could have. It was a, a beautiful place. I'm not triggered by thinking about it. For me, the kind of final act and being ready to go was like the biggest beautiful thing I've ever done. So
Yeah.
I know that's a stupid thing to hear, but it kind of like all went at that point, and for some reason I'm still here, and I just got to get on with living and know it's just how my head works, and talk about it, and I should be fine with me.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm glad you're still here to hopefully other people learn from it. If I'm honest with you, because I know you're going to write your book as well, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, I'm about 400 pages into to just writing about my life and stuff that I've done and how I felt
Yeah.
and how I feel. Well, not so much how I feel now, but yeah, I hopefully should be finished in about a month. So
Wow. Okay. Wow. Good grief. Do you find that's helping?
I found it helped. It was really easy to. I've written. I'm not writing it in order, and I've written the coming out and the my little holiday to Scotland, as everybody calls it, last year, with a little swim at the end. Um, and I think it really helped when I was really emotional to write those bits. They just flowed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it did help, and it was the mental health crisis team here in Suffolk that told me to do it, and then the guy that they put me in touch with for therapy, he told me to do it as well. So it's meant to be funny. It's meant to help people. It's if a few, it's dedicated to my brothers and three particular people that I wrote to say goodbye.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, without them I wouldn't be here. So it's for them, and if it goes any wider than that, so be it.
I don't know. Obviously, we've had a few more conversations than just with video, so there's bits I guess know a bit more. I think absolutely you should read it. I'll probably buy it anyway. Obviously mates rates. I'd want mates rates.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But I think this is also another really important message. What we try and push is, in my personal opinion, we need to stop talking about mental health in one way, and that's the only way we can talk about mental health. Like we've sat around the pub table taking the piss
Yeah,
and having a laugh, but you know what? It's broken down so many boundaries of just speaking like men about mental health and learning about each other and all this kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? I just don't think there isn't a one size fits all.
no, but I you know for my personality, whether it would be gay or mental health, the things that I've worried about in my life, I feel that if you aren't walking on eggshells and you can have an honest conversation and work out whether, Bert needs to just be quiet tonight, or, is the life and soul of the party, just being open and honest and making those connections and bonds with people, that's when you get an insight into how they're feeling and how you can help them.
No,
Even if it's just a hello or an email or a how you doing, mate, you know.
yeah, no, exactly that. But I think you said something bloody crucial there. Actually, is also if you know somebody, if you know they want to be left alone, leave them alone. Because like you did say that, didn't you? Or am I
Yeah,
making?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you can just, not everybody all the time can wants to talk or can talk, but it's knowing the sort of ebb and flow of what mood that means people are in. I think that you can just leave people. It's like me. People I've now met. Sometimes they know I'm just not in a talkative mood and I'm thinking about stuff, but they don't need to worry that that means I'm always thinking about the worst thing.
yeah,
It's just keeping on top of it, and you can. It's good to be prodded every now and then, but
yeah,
just
without
know
question.
where the
Yeah,
limits are.
yeah, no, absolutely. So just before we do the whole closey stuff, if anyone's looking at this, and sadly, there might be somebody going, right, okay, in a couple of days, that's it, game over for me. What would you say to what would you say? I don't want to say advice because technically we actually you can say your bit. We don't give advice as man up. What would you say? You've been there, you've jumped.
I would say, believe it or not, it really isn't as bad as you think. I know when I was there, I did think that the best thing for me and the world would be if I wasn't around anymore, and that would be the best option for absolutely everyone. And then realizing, that when you do tell people that you have struggled or you are struggling, or this is what you feel the outcome would be, they don't judge you for being useless or stupid, or then actually you can talk to people, and it really does help, and it doesn't have to be It can be your family, or it can be your mates, or it can be somebody you don't know at all. You pick off the internet as therapy or whatever, but actually, it is a release when you talk about it, that you can relieve that pressure build up, whatever it is, and however bad you think it is, really talking about it is pretty easy once you start.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You've said something which I'm a massive advocate of. Is you said the word relief, and I think that's the other thing. What annoys me, and it shouldn't. I should know better. Is when we're like, oh, talk to somebody, get absolutely everything off your chest. Well, actually, sometimes you don't need to get absolutely everything off your chest. You just need to get a little bit off, just to relieve, just open that kettle a little bit, just let out a
Yeah,
little bit of pressure.
and it may be you can't get the biggest thing off your chest because you don't know how to approach that until you've worked out how somebody communicates and deals with you about one of the littler things. But you're right, anything that just takes pressure out of your head helps.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely that. So I was going to ask you a question, and I've gone completely and utterly forgotten it. So I do apologise. No, so your book work. So you're about. I'm intrigued about this book.
You want me to tell people what it's called, don't you?
No, 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 not at all. Obviously, I know that I got told off by a trustee for referring to it. I was like, oh, that guy there. But no, it's absolutely fine. So you reckon going to be done in a month?
I would hope so, because I kind of feel that if I don't put an end date on at least filling in most of the gaps so it makes sense, I don't
Yeah,
want it to go on forever, because it was so much easier to write when my head was needing to get rid of stuff.
yeah,
That now it's now I don't take as easily to writing it at the moment because I'm not in that state. So I want it to finish so that I can give it to these people that mean so much to me. But yeah, it just is a completely honest view of me being a promiscuous gay man, how my life was growing up, how I filled my life with constant work to cope, and
yeah,
then how you know the time I had, and how I was feeling, sort of not day by day, as I was, for the 3 weeks before splashdown, um, I was living in a forest, and actually that was great for me, just being completely out in the open. And when you weren't caring about living, it was just nice to, it didn't matter if you didn't wake up the next morning. You kind of hopeful for that, but actually just sleeping under the stars and the tranquility in nature for me
I'm a
is
massive fan
a
of that.
a
Yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
resetting kind of thing. So just not how I did it. It's not a survival guide. It'd be really crap at writing one of those. It just is how I coped, and how I got to where I am now. And if anybody reading it ever gets anything from it, or it's designed to make you laugh. It's fun.
Yeah, no,
So
absolutely. I think that's the key, isn't it? It's just keep your personality,
yeah,
your personality. And I think with a lot of mental health discussions, everything is just the personality of that person, or even the person to talk to. It just everything just gets ultra serious.
yeah, and I hate
It's,
that. So
yeah, no, exactly. It's like sorry, a light just caught me eye there. But it's just like when you walk into like some of those therapists, it's like the little round table with a box of tissues on it. It's like no, it's just be you and talk.
well, I felt I'd really kind of it was a couple of months in with my therapist when I could actually make him laugh at something really politically incorrect about suicide. I thought, right, we've got a relationship, because I don't need to be treated like that. I need to have the piss taken out of me gently, and to
Yeah,
know that the way I communicate and talk is how I deal with it. And I'm completely open to jokes and remarks. And I kind of feel if I can be so open about it, it enables people to ask me questions.
and
Because
I think that do you find and then I'm going to kill the video. I mean that in a nice way. Do you have you noticed somebody talking to you, joking with you, not about you? Is there anything where you've had conversations where you like? they're asking me for advice, where they're more open to ask you a question.
I think,
Have I made
yeah,
sense?
I think if you can joke about it, they can ask you stuff about, people have asked me, well, what was it like? Why did you do that? Or how did it feel? Or did it make it feel better or anything? And I think if you, in a way, if you can shock them enough by being so open, then they can ask that question, not in an advice of how to do anything, but just, if it triggers something in themselves. Oh, well, actually, if he felt that shit, maybe I'm not quite so badly off, or maybe I should talk about my
Yeah.
problems like he can. So, my openness is just designed to help others, and maybe I wish I had the courage to help myself earlier in my life.
Yeah. That was a good call. Absolutely good call. I was a bit worried about it because I was thinking, oh, it'd be one of those videos I'll have to ask the trustees whether it'd be fine to post it before we did. But yes, you're a good boy, so well done to you. But let me hit the record button. Bear me one second, mate.